talking here today about your financial stability versus your relationship. So I'm Una Doyle and I'm here with Nazia Hack. Nazia, do you want to introduce yourself for those who might know you?
Hello, everybody. I'm Nazia Hack from Nazia Hack Wealth Management, and I'm here to talk about finance and the link it has with our relationship. So, yeah, I will now pass it back to Una, and we can get this show on the road.
Absolutely. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach, and I can help any business to unlock 50k or more in additional revenues without any spend on marketing or advertising in only 15 minutes. Now, a big part of what I do in my work is working with the mindset of the business owners as well as the strategies and things. And that's why, one of the reasons why Nazia and I have formed together. We did some things on Clubhouse. Now we're doing these weekly lives, the series of them. And the mindset part of this, I think, is really, really important, because I think there's a lot of situations that I know you come across from the point of view of when you're doing financial planning with people, and there's certain things they're not taking into consideration because they don't want to think about them, right? And I come across it from a business point of view where people aren't necessarily looking at their finances in the right way to make their business finances and therefore their personal finances a lot more stable. So before we dive into those things, let's just talk about what do we mean by financial stability. So what does that mean to you, Nazia?
Financial stability. That's a very, very interesting question. And the meaning of that for everybody varies, okay? But the main thing we want to focus on is financial stability actually has a massive impact on our mental well-being. Okay, so that's the first point I want to make, that financial stability is not a luxury, it's a necessity and a need and a desire that we all have. And stability can vary depending on what our overall personal needs are. Some people need to feel they live in a big house or have a nice car or have certain luxury. Other people, it means other things. But on the bottom line, let's ignore luxuries. But stability is just the basic ability to pay your essential costs. Okay, so but let's go to essential costs. So we mean a roof over our head, so that could be a mortgage or rent, paying them utility bills, gas, electricity, TV license, etc., and most importantly, putting food on the table. So that is the basic bog standard stability, and that's what the benefit system is designed to do. It's designed to give people the ability to live at least a basic standard of living. So stability is something that doesn't matter what your background is. Stability is something that we all desire and actually we need, because without it, that's when we fall into a lot of mental issues, mental unhealthiness that goes on with it. So but that brings us to the point of the main topic that we're going to discuss is, why are we not talking about this financial stability? Why is finance still such a taboo subject for most people? Why is there so much embarrassment around this concept of, let's discuss what stability looks like you? Why are people that are forming relationships, new ones and old, not checking in with their partners about what is that stability for you? It may change. People change how they feel over time. So it might have just been the basic needs, and now for them, they might have increased that to, they do want to live in a good location. So if two people in a relationship are not having these financial conversations, that's when the problems begin and kind of cause a bit of a unbalancedness between the relationships. So what are your thoughts on this really crucial conversation?
Well, I think for me, I mean, yes, I think I want to broaden it slightly to be not just financial stability today, but financial stability in the future as well. So,
Yeah.
for instance, say it's a younger person, maybe they plan to have children, and maybe they're not so young, but they're kind of on their way to, wrong side of 40 or 50 and heading towards retirement. Are they going to be stable in the future? And if you're stable now, but you're not creating that stability in the future through pension, saving, investments, creating assets like a business that's worth something that you're actually able to sell. And I think a lot of people get that wrong as well. They kind of go, oh, I have a business. And they don't realize that actually what they have is a self-employed job. They don't have something that they can sell that actually is worth something. So I think, yeah, I'd like to just extend it further as well.
Yeah. And that's very important. I just want to now quickly give a shout out. I have noticed 8 people have been watching us, dropping in and out and changing. But to make this really work and so that we can help you guys, when we are chatting about things, if you feel it has any impact with what we've said, made you think, or maybe your version of stability is different to what we're discussing, we'd love a comment in the chats below. It just helps us to get this 1 hour to be used in a very productive way. Feel free to ask questions as well. We will have some time at the end to answer them questions. The whole premise of where we built this live from was we did a clubhouse and we were finding people who were engaging with us, but we couldn't save that chat. And we felt that what if we could transport that chat and people can watch it at a different time? So your engagement really matters to us guys so that we can maybe talk about a different topic, do the right thing. So if you are watching just a hi or yes, it kind of get that point, or no, stability doesn't matter, or it does, you've made me think. Anything will be much appreciated. So what was the question again, Una? Just to recap, planning forward, that's what you mentioned.
Well,
So, yeah.
I was just saying, we were just talking about, well, what are we calling financial stability? So we're saying financial stability now, being able to cover all your essential costs, and also to be able to be preparing to be able to do that in the future as well. We got a comment from Hyle Griffiths. Interesting question. I did not consider this at all. I think he's referring to the topic title that we have today. Yeah, and I think a lot of people haven't.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. I've been an advisor now 13 years, guys, and I honestly can tell you, nobody ever sat me down and had this conversation with me about having a conversation with my partner, and it really has led to me experiencing things that maybe I could have avoided. Okay, and a conversation that I should have been made. I mean, I know we don't have a manual to raise children or marriage, but let's be realistic. The world we live in, we can share this information now. And even though I've had bad experiences, what I'm trying to get people to understand is this fluff about getting married and relationships, and they spend a lot of money on the early days, maybe even on the marriage alone, but they don't do that planning exercise of let's plan for the future. What will the future look like? But not just fluff talk, but in real terms, put it down on paper and work out what their plan looks and revisit it. And because all relationships, be a relationship of marriage or just with your children, most relationships statistically break down on money. Okay, business relationships. So what if we can just improve that relationship? Which brings me to the point that Una had brought up about mindset. So you have to remember, 2 individuals joining together or in partnership, in business or elsewhere, have a different mindset. You do know that we all come from a different background. So what we bring to the table is different. So our thinking process is different. And if we've come from a home where we didn't get much, we might be overspenders because we kind of live in the moment. Or if we came from a family where depending on what our association with money is, we might have the association money is evil, or we might have it as a positive. We have to first work on our mindset to understand where we are and what kind of things that we potentially want to remove from that mindset when we're having them conversations as well. So relationship conversations are about money are really something that you should do regularly. And obviously I do that with my clients, individually and in couples. Talking about money has to be a subject topic that we should all be doing more of.
Hear. Absolutely. So I have to agree in the comments if you agree that we should talk about money more. We've got a comment from Samuel Shapira. I defer to the experts on the matter, you and I, but I would say that they're not mutually exclusive, and totally we agree with that, and we've kind of but a lot of the time people focus on one or the other to their detriment. In fact, and I like this next bit, in fact, they could be complementary or even influence each other, which might be the opposite of mutually exclusive. So yes, mutually inclusive, shall we say. So yeah, absolutely. That all comes down to the communication around it, doesn't it? And I think there's a few different aspects of that. So I think one is your own personal relationship with money and the other person's relationship with money. I mean, it's interesting, like actually this month, in fact, next week, I'll be celebrating 13 years with my husband and 3 years of us actually being married. And money is the only thing we've only had 3 arguments in our time together, which I think is pretty cool. And they've all been about money, and the reason is that we came from 2 totally different family cultures when it came to money. And so we had so in the early days we had to kind of work through that and figure out, okay, so what's going to be our little family culture as a couple in terms of the decisions that we make. So I think there's the way that you've been brought up. There's which obviously massively influences your personal relationship with money. I think also there's your values, So like I remember with my ex-husband, he didn't value kind of improving our home and creating a better environment, but he would be quite happy to spend lots of money on a holiday. And at that time, that was a clash for us because I wanted a nice environment to be in. And actually, typically, women are more concerned about their environment as well, their home environment. Yeah. So research has kind of shown that. But you got to look at and discuss what do you each value and how are you going to prioritize different kinds of spending and what criteria are you going to use to make financial decisions. So I think having conversations about all of those things are really important. And there's a brilliant book actually that I'd highly recommend that people get. And it doesn't matter whether you're already married or you're not even in a relationship. That it's a great book. It's called Lies at the Altar, and it's basically right. It's great, isn't it? And so it's got an introduction, kind of a few chapters introduction, but then the rest of the book is all questions, because quite often what she's referring to with Lies at the Altar is that each person has their own beliefs and expectations when they get married, and then they get a shock when they turn out not to be met. So I mean, sometimes people haven't discussed big things. So one section of that book is about money. There's also other things about health, about kind of family, friends, how you spend your social time, sex, everything. Even right down to how would you feel, or what would you want to happen if you lost a limb or something like that. So I would highly recommend people do that. I think it gives a good structure for people to start these conversations. It can be a date night thing. Let's answer, kind of 1 to 3 questions every time we go on a date. Make it fun, make it into a game.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have read that book, and yes, the finance bit is very, very interesting, and it does bring them questions up, and so important, and I can't express it enough. And that brings me to habits, relationship, and our own personal relationship and habits with money, which is another area that, like, we're speaking about mindset, but we have those that save and those that don't. And actually, I can't give you the figures because I'd have to have them in front of me, but ultimately those that start saving younger are more likely to be financially stable than those that don't. Okay, and it is a habit. So I have a young apprentice in my office who's just started with me as a full-time employee, and I'm going to be contributing to his pension a reasonable amount. And I've asked him to basically, if he can now, he's going to be earning more to be putting the same amount away. And I'm showing him through illustrations what that looks like when he gets to retirement. And those that plan ahead, way ahead, are the ones that will be more stable. Which brings me to another point. There's a gentleman in St. James's Place called Robin Gardner, and he's actually done a little cartoon book called Save the Acorns, and it's a book about a squirrel and how he saves the acorns. But the ultimate thing is, majority of our learning about money happens between age 4 and 7. Can you believe it, that our spending habits start between 4 and 7, a time when majority of we are just letting our children have what they want, or we're not letting them have it, okay? But to create that little bit of money every month where you showing them and then letting them spend is great. But how many of us are not given any skill sets at childhood about managing money? So it's not about educating yourselves, just yourselves. If you have a family, think about that relationship, and the most important gift you can give your children is not them inheriting lump sums of money. It's about them understanding money and how to manage money and how to save it, how to enjoy it, all the different parameters of it. So think of it, instead of a Christmas gift, think about buying something for your children, which is about planning ahead. Okay, this Christmas, that would be my little tip. Give them something which is going to give them the incentive to save and plan for their future, because I'm sure anybody that watches this can honestly tell me they've all made a mistake with finance. I don't know, bought some windows through a salesperson and paid an APR of 30%, or got a credit card and for years paid a high APR, got a car loan because they just wanted that car, but actually they would have been okay with a cheaper car with this lower car loan. We live in a society where we just feel we want it now. And I'm not one to say luxuries don't count. I like an odd luxury myself. But it's how we keep a balance. And how can you keep a balance in a busy lifestyle? It's about keeping notes, and doing a regular budget check on you and your partner and family is a great starting point. Looking at how much surplus money is left every month, and looking at what percentage of that can you allocate to future, maybe tax bills. That could be one if you're self-employed. What percentage should be luxury? What percentage should be your pension planning? Think. All of it starts from a thinking point of view. So nothing's going to happen magically, especially if you're self-employed or a director to a company, because most of the thinking has to come from you. And what you'll do is you'll always push away. If things are running okay and your bank balance is looking reasonable, you're not going to look at it. You're just going to go, that's fine. I can buy that Costa coffee and I can just put my card and my phone there and off I go and I can spend. But if you start adding up all them little tiny bits, you realize that you may have an association in your mindset. The way I make myself feel good is to spend money. And actually, that's not a positive way, okay? To spend money just to feel good. There is other ways.
A lot of people have that, definitely.
Yeah.
So
it's just,
and I think this is the reason where mindset comes into it, because if you learn how to feel good about yourself without needing to spend money, without needing to consume food, drink, cigarettes, media, whatever it might be, which is often all about, like, I'm doing this motion because it's like about stuffing down those emotions rather than dealing with them. And this applies just as much in business, right? Because, the like, in terms of, what are you charging, or even in your career, if you're employed, are you going for that promotion? Are you negotiating a good salary in, once you're offered a job? If you're running your own business, have you actually got things structured? Have you read Profit First? I get all my clients read Profit First and implement that into their business, because it is that thing about, it's based on the our grandmothers and perhaps even parents' system of, cash came into the house because it was all cash back in those days, and it went into envelopes. So you had your mortgage or rent, you had food, you had clothing, it was all the essentials, and maybe, and if there was some left over, maybe it went into a little holiday fund or, savings. And it's just basically those same principles of actually allocating money. And if you make a decision, my spending money this month is X, and you take all the other money out of your accounts and it goes to wherever it needs to go, and this great, this Starling Bank, Monzo, Tide allow you to do this really easily. Like, I'm over in Ireland right now. You might be wondering, why isn't Una in her office? I'm at my sister's house right now, visiting family in Ireland, and I have a Monzo personal account, and I use that. I got it for traveling, but I now have started to use it. I have little saving pots. So I have a little saving pot for my fabric, for my dressmaking. I have a little pot for coming on holidays over here. You won't see this. My husband has a big birthday in January. I've been saving up for it, So you can do that in your personal life, and then you can do the same thing in the business, putting the money aside, as you were saying, for tax. But what about a team? What about that marketing campaign you want to run? What about, your dividends? Then every quarter, see, okay, so let's look at the profit and loss and balance sheets. You talk with your accountant. And see, what am I going to do with that surplus money? And if you don't have surplus money, then looking at this stuff is going to, allow you to start making some decisions of, okay, well, where can we cut back? And where can we generate more income? You want to be looking at both of those things. And I think sometimes people feel like, I can't cut anymore. So what do? We actually need to learn how to generate more income. It goes both ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's all about ultimately that balance that we have to have. And these conversations we're having is really for the benefit of you guys, to help you kind of, even if it's a light bulb moment of you starting to think. And it brings me to a word that was my word for today, which is consistency.
Yeah.
And I did a different post because I have a gratitude community that I've kind of pulled together over lockdown. And what I've learned is one thing: habits, good or bad, if you consistently do the same thing, you're going to get a positive outcome. I mean, if it's a bad habit, it's going to be in a bad way. The point is, ultimately, if you do something consistently without overthinking it, it will transform into an amazing habit. So be eating healthy. That was mine. I basically went and it's okay to go and outsource and get resources to help you. So I use Mindful Chef as my way of trying to introduce new ways of cooking healthy meals, because I got a bit bored and flat with the same stuff. It's okay not to do everything. There's a lot of things already done for you. It's just about getting the right stuff together. But the key component is, instead of punishing ourselves and say we didn't do it, again with finance, if you haven't done it in the past, it's okay. That's gone now. Let's work on what we can do today, what we can transform today, and make it by the smallest amount. It doesn't have to be big. How many clients I get that say to me, Nazia, I've been wanting to do this for years, and now I'm like, why didn't I do it? Now I've had the meeting with you. It feels like so much relief, and I feel like so organized. And I had feelings of embarrassment. I had feelings of, I didn't know what it was going to cost. But ultimately, once they step in the right direction, the habits, the what you learn from it, you just kind of, it's only going to have a positive impact on you. So anything to do with finance, if you can just change a slight little habit, and make it a habit, which means consistently, it will change. So it might just be £10 you can afford a month, and it's okay. Put it in a jar, okay? If then it becomes 50,
even if it's £1, the act of going, I'm creating a space for this money, and then next thing you know, you're kind of going, oh, I put a £5 in, I put a £10 in, or I put 50 quid in, and it's amazing how that goes.
So you said the special word, creating space. If you don't create these mental spaces for these positive changes, they're not going to happen. Procrastination and just how human nature, our brains work, we will just not do it. So there's so much guidance on money, on so many different money wise. A lot of banks are doing it. They're making it really easy for you guys to budget. The fact is, you're only looking at how easy it is to spend it because you go ping, Apple Pay. You're not
Well,
looking
spending frictionless. You tap your phone. You know, you already have an account on Amazon. You just click add to basket. It's, you know, and it's designed that way to make it easy for
Yeah, I
people.
never heard of a company. I don't want to name call because I don't even know what the company's called, but there's a company that basically is now offering to buy what you want before your paycheck arrives because you want it so badly. So
Yeah.
they kind of, in a way, are giving it in advance. I mean, it just makes me choke how terrible that is. That you cannot wait to make the purchase, that you have to borrow money just before you even making the purchase for your paycheck. That's just bad habits, and you know the company does not care about your well-being, okay? But when that spirals out of control, and it does in most cases, clients start borrowing money, it starts spiraling. And when they're exhausted and tired and whatever, they go, I'll just book another credit, I'll just book it on my credit card, I just need a break. You don't need a break which is costing you money. You need to just do something that doesn't cost you money. So again, like I said, it's habits, and consistency is the only way you can change a habit. It's not going to happen.
Totally agree. Let's just talk about what happens when, because like we talked about, well, your financial stability versus your relationship. Because what happens when you go, okay, this is how I want to be, and I'm trying to be like this, but my partner isn't with me. So my partner wants to keep spending, or they don't want to sit down and budget, or you know whatever it might be. And I know you've had situations, and even situations where, you know, talking about that future stability, where you know you've got like, you know, we've talked about this before, but let's talk about it again because it is important for women to realize, you know, if you're in a relationship and you are taking a back seat on your career or business because of children and childcare, and then down the road, you know, if you split up, then, you know, your financial future has really been affected. And you need to talk about those things now, right? So yeah, so let's take the first bit of that, because that's kind of maybe two different things. So what do you do for someone who isn't prepared to work with you? So what do you do in those situations when you're having those meetings with couples?
Interesting point. When couples have different ways of spending, it's very awkward, I'll have to admit, to get them on the same page. But I think the first thing is very much about doing that budgeting exercise and ultimately sitting with them and working out what's coming in and what's going out. And if one is a bit of a spender and the other isn't, is how to educate them very gently about what the future looks like if they carry on in that manner. And to be honest, as a couple, when I'm seeing them, the dynamics change. The dynamics change because the conversation is much easier and they're more receptive to listening to me. But I'm sure if they were doing it themselves at home, it wouldn't be the same conversation. It would be very, very different. I've even got the other sort of couples where they're oversaving, okay? And I'm sitting there going, you've done an amazing job here, but now you're 60 and she's 59 and we've got this retirement pot of like 800,000. It's okay to spend now. You know, you've got to enjoy this money because it's going to be great inheritance for the future for your children. But ultimately, you worked really hard. So let's make that list of dreams of what you want to do. So I do work with both sides of clients. It's not just one end. I have the one that can't just spend for the life of them because they spent their life saving and they're struggling. And I said, okay, let's write a check out. And they go, what? I said, let's write a check out to the tax man because he's about to get some money, some nice, healthy money.
Yeah.
Let's start bringing your children into the conversation where we talk about what money can do for them. Let's educate them because unfortunately, one thing that is guaranteed is we're going to all leave one day. Okay, so the money has to go somewhere, and your children are going to get it. As much as you don't want to give it to them because you don't think they're good for money, but why don't you help me educate them because they're going to get it anyway? And let's make a difference to their lives now rather than future. Plus, don't pay the tax man either. So it's a lot of educational stuff that goes on there. But yeah, I think having a third person with anything, Una, always makes a difference. suddenly the woman or the man will go, but I've been saying this to her forever and she don't listen, but she listens to the nanny.
But they'll listen when a stranger says it.
It's so true.
Have you ever heard the saying, the stranger is the expert?
It does work. But, you know, I manage these appointments really well. I'm not there to make anyone feel anything. I'm trying to support them, and what they're experiencing is quite normal. Because in the busyness of life, having these conversations where you switch everything off and you sit there and you're making notes and having doesn't happen. It's a flying comet over dinner or something, but we're not having the real conversation. We're having a passive conversation, not a real one. Which then brings me to a point that you brought, Una, which was women. Something that I genuinely had no thoughts, but I've been put in that position, so it's very close to my heart. And women don't understand often, as they give up time for raising their children, which is fine, and we nurture them. If they don't stay with their partner, what that actually looks like. And I met a woman actually only a couple of days ago, and it's really sad. She was married for 34 years. She has 3 grown-up children. And last year, her husband decided to divorce her. Okay. And she hadn't worked all her life. She wasn't expecting to financially stabilize herself. She thought she was in a family home. And the gentleman very cleverly owned a limited company, had managed to do certain things to ensure that on the books his worth wasn't as much. So she walked away with very little money and now is having to work full time for the rest of her life because she's got nothing ultimately. No pension sharing, everything. Don't get me wrong, in divorce proceedings, you do get pension sharing orders and X, Y, and Z can happen. But if you don't know what they've got, you're not getting it. Okay?
Yes.
So if you're not aware, you can't pension share order on something that you don't even know exists.
Correct.
It's just not going to happen.
It can be a temptation, I think. So like I work with a lot of creative people, and some of them, not all, but some of them are like, oh, I can't do numbers. I'm a creative person. And it's so interesting. Like, one of my clients, like 6 months ago, they had 0 accounts. Like they had somebody come in, hand them a shoe, they literally hand them a shoebox, that whole theme people talk about, of receipts, but they had no idea what was going on in their business. And now they're actually excited. They have a money date every week. The children go off to a relative for a couple of hours while they actually do their money, and they're excited, and they're now properly paying themselves as well. And they're talking about growing their team and can they afford it, and and they can. So it's like, this is brilliant because it's with the right help and the right attitude, right mindset around it. Even if you haven't, maybe you've abdicated money to your partner, whether you're male or female, it can go both ways, right? But if you've abdicated all the money decisions to your partner, then you have no idea what they are going to do. And look, you know me, I'm a positive person, I'm a happy person, but as I think you said previously, the person that you move in with or that you marry is not the same person that then divorces you or leaves you. Right?
Yeah. It's not one person. And money changes everything. And, it really, honestly, women don't realize, and I know how long the time and energy it takes to raising your child when you're nurturing, how much you don't have time to actually earn money. Okay. And I hear men say it all the time, oh, I go to work because it's far easier than staying at home. I go to work because it's far easier, because they're the breadwinners and they're out there. But women are not valuing themselves and are not being valued. Where a stay-at-home mom is not just a stay-at-home mom. If you went and got a private nanny to look after 2 kids, pick up and drop off from school for a month, it would cost in the region of £1,500.
And somebody to clean the house and do the ironing.
Yeah. And the food shopping.
Yeah. So that's just for the nanny. And what about cleaning as well?
Yeah. So people don't
food shopping, cleaning, ironing.
Yeah. And I think
that's got to be another 500, another few hundred quid, right? All of that.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not against a traditional relationship. It's okay if two people want to design it that way, but that conversation about what if, why does that not take place? Why is it just because if then the relationship becomes an abusive relationship, suddenly a woman is in a position where she can't financially move. She can't financially move because she hasn't got any means to be able to move away. She has to stay in that relationship, and that's how, unfortunate as it sounds, an abusive relationship has to stay because she hasn't got the ability. So a true honest relationship, two people openly talk about their finances and be valued. It can be a stay-at-home dad as well. Let's not, we are in the 21st century. There's genuine, I know a friend of, she's a friend of mine. She got her own business, successful, and she's going through a divorce, but she's fairly, because her partner was a stay-at-home dad, has been really, really fair in how she's dealing with it, because she appreciated the fact that he had spent 10 years being at home, and he did all the school pickups and drop-offs, so he didn't build a career, and now he's starting afresh from very little. So she's been, while they haven't officially divorced, he's moved out and she's paid for his rent, given him monthly monies to support him in that transition period until he said he can get to a point where he can earn. And how amazing. I mean, I would love to hear more stories like that, but they don't always exist. Okay, they don't always exist. But in true sense, that's how it should be. Because if you've had children, it should be, people should consider the fact that they had the child together. Yeah, it's not a child support kind of thing, somebody's going to calculate it. You decided to have a child together. You are both responsible for the upkeep of that child, the expenditure that goes with it. Just bear with, you can drop it up. Higher. Sorry, I do a drop-offs for the Very Homeless Project, so I just had a gentleman just drop something off.
It's a long time since I've been called a gentleman.
Oh, there you go.
Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care now. Bye.
There you go. He wasn't being called a gentleman.
There you go. If you're local to Bury, you can drop stuff on. As is often. Okay, so listen, is something that I want to pull out actually what you just said there. Beg your pardon, go on.
Don't carry on.
Oh, we crossed over there. So something I want to pull out of what you said, that actually, so when I'm coaching my clients, and if they have, often we're talking about pricing, and we're talking about people signing agreements and contracts and paying a good proportion, if not all, upfront, depending on what kind of product or service it is that they have. And quite often, they'll come up against somebody who doesn't want to do that. And I always say to them, if a potential client doesn't want to sign a contract, then that means they plan to not pay you. Don't do business with them. And if you're in a relationship with somebody who isn't prepared to talk about finances and the future, I think that should be a similar warning bell. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think if if somebody is willing to block what you call a very, very important conversation off in the early days, there's definitely an issue there. And that thing about business, if somebody's not willing to pay, you are letting that space be taken up by an opportunity, of somebody else being a well-paid client. And that brings me to the main point of emotions. Be careful of your emotions associated when it comes to money. Money makes you feel emotional. So if you're a natural helper, you want to give. But like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. The same goes with money. You got to look after your own stability before you can look after others. You can be helping charity and good causes. Like, I've come to the conclusion that I had lots of money blocks, but I did my work and I've removed them. I can now happily say, even though I don't want the big house or the Porsche, I have some amazing figures that I want to reach, because I've recognized that with money you can help other people and good causes and do good stuff with it. So it's all about the flow and breaking down some of the myths and some of the old habits within you that you've installed because you've had a bad experience. And it could be something like, when I was younger, I used to look at rich people and they were really cruel to others, and it may be just one person, and that's cemented in my brain as, oh, I don't want to be wealthy because they do that. Or you see a person that's a massive saver and they're like a Scrooge, and you're like, I'm never going to be that. That's why I love to go out and spend, because I know X, Y, and Z, and they've got money, but look how they live. You know,
And there's a lovely happy medium, isn't there?
yes,
So
yes.
I have to say, some of the kindest, most generous people I know actually have got a lot of money. And there are some who are very kind and generous that don't have a lot of money as well. It's like, actually the amount of resources you have, all it does is it kind of, if you're a kind of Scrooge type person, that's just going to be exacerbated by having more money. If you're a mean person, that's just going to be amplified by having more money. It's just kind of who you are, So yeah, fantastic. Someone at the door.
You can go get it. I'll carry on here.
We're really, really interrupted today, aren't we?
It's fine. We're living a normal life.
It's my sister. I have to let her in. Back in a moment.
You go, and it's fine. I'll just carry on. So, guys, I know that some of you have watched it, and some of you will be watching it later. Like I have said before, your comments are really, truly appreciated. Anything that you've liked, not liked, anything more you'd like to see, just please comment below, like our post. It's the only way that me and Una can keep going. We're people. We love people, but we need to know that you like what we're sharing and it's of any benefit. I have to admit, recently I've had some amazing comments via LinkedIn, Facebook, and a few from Instagram, and people are saying to me, wow, that was really good. But other than that, I've been to a couple of networking events and people have mentioned it, and I'm like, you need to comment so I know, otherwise I feel
exactly, yes.
And I'm wasting time, or people are going to think, why are these two crazy ladies doing this? We actually don't have any ulterior motive other than we genuinely want you to know things that we want to share with you guys. And if somebody has a light bulb moment because of this, fantastic. We're putting something positive out in the universe, isn't it, Una?
Absolutely. Hey, karma, what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
And it feels good to be helpful, indeed. So listen, so there's several resources that we've talked about. We talked about the book Profit First. We talked about the book Lies at the Altar. We talked about all there's lots of financial websites where you can get budgeting help and things. And I think the key thing is that, you've got to, you got to speak to your partner and make sure that, they, if they're a bit resistant to this, talk about, well, actually, I don't want to end up in this kind of situation. And by the way, I've watched a series recently called Made. Have you watched it, Nazia?
Yeah, I have.
Oh
yeah.
my God, it's so good. It's on Netflix. Really, really good.
Yeah.
And I know that, the couple involved were at a low income level to begin with. However, what you got to understand is, even if you're at a higher income level, if you kind of go, oh, well, that wouldn't be me because I'm not at that level. Actually, for many people, it only takes a month or two of not having income, coming in for them to end up in similar situations. So watch that, and it'll just make you go, actually, yeah, we really do need to have these conversations. So, and if you can get help with any of those things around, your business or your personal finances, then please reach out to us.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, if you want to DM me and book a guidance call, if that conversation is getting too challenging, a guidance call doesn't cost you anything, and I will give up 30 minutes of my time to sit with your partner, just to engage with you, to have that conversation. It is not me giving advice. I will just go through it on a personal level, and allow you to then, I'll share with you loads of links and toolkits that you can have. So I can, instead of you trying to search the whole internet to find it,
Exactly.
if you reach out, I will do that for you. And I am trying to collect some testimonials from quite a lot of people I've recently done it for and the value it has had to them. Sometimes it doesn't lead to business for me, and it's absolutely fine. But these people remember me, and I do, you know, what you put out, you get back. The thing about karma, it genuinely works. So there's no silly question when it comes to money. There's no right or wrong place you should be. It can be anywhere. We're all just on a journey, but to make our journey as healthy as possible, getting our finances in order will just help it that little bit more.
Absolutely, yes. And if you do run a business, I have a video, free video training you can watch, which is all about the 5 steps that you're going to be looking at to be able to double your profits. So just DM me if you would like to have that as well. So see, lots of free resources that can help you along where you are. Well, listen, I think we've covered quite a lot today. Just so you know, we're not here next week. We'll be back the week after. I'm literally traveling back to the UK on that day, so we'll have to skip next week, but we'll be here the week after, and we look forward to speaking with you then. So pop a comment below, #replay if you're watching the replay, or any questions that you have, as Nazia had said, and we will see you again very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.